Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth. Is it true that your dad has a ringside seat but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome! Yeah! Give it up for Claire. Thank you so much, Claire. High five. Yeah!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jake Allen. Each and every Tuesday, I come to you, that hashtag NWA fam, to talk all things NWA, to get you ready for this week's Power. Whether you want to consider this your pre-show, your post-show, or your in lieu of show, we'll take it. But we're here every Tuesday with you to talk all things wrestling. And I've already seen a couple of my buddies are here in the chat, so I want to say what's up to Willie Bowen, who's got our Tyrus joke of the day. Hey, J. Cal, Tyrus loves seafood. Every time he sees food, he eats it. Boom, roasted. Willie had another one earlier, and I don't see it on my screen anymore, but I'm gonna try to do it from memory. I think he said Tyrus has a eating problem. He eats all the time or something like that. Anyways, so we're here to talk wrestling. Also want to say what's up to my pal Jeremy, Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. He wishes you all a good afternoon. Jeremy is always going to be a part of that Alliance fam. He was part of the other Alliance guys podcast. Jeremy, we got to talk, man. When are you guys coming back? When are you guys bringing the show back? Come on, bring the band back together. I don't know if Timmy's coming back, but you and Scoob had a great show that was here every Wednesday. Love to see that come back. Steve G's in the house. Steve G's my guy. A great supporter here on the Alliance. Let's see who else is here. Sean Mega's in the house. Sean Mega goes way back with the Alliance, all the way back to the message boards. I mean, you're old school when you go back to the message boards. Okay, it's Tuesday. Of course, Power is coming up. If you haven't already tuned into it. Now, for some of you who are new to the show, the reason why we started doing this live stream at Tuesday at 2:05, or I guess 2 o'clock is when we start. The reason why we started doing the live stream on Tuesdays at this time was because essentially we were 1 hour before the NWA Power that used to air on YouTube. Now, over the course of the last few years, that it has changed, and has the time that you could watch the show. At one point, it was only on YouTube. Then it was on Triller TV. Then it went back to YouTube, and now it's for the better part of this year and a good chunk of last year, it became exclusive to the CW app, which is only available in the United States. When it drops on the CW app, it's available, I believe, at like 7 in the morning. So you can really watch it at any time. But we've committed to doing this show here on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock, or on the East Coast, it's closer to 5 o'clock. And so we stay with this same viewing time, just in case you didn't know. That's why we do it. We still talk all things NWA. Even if you've watched the show, you've already seen the show. We're going to preview the show. We're going to talk about some news and information coming up with the NWA as well. So want to say what's up and all that good stuff. Our boy Sean Mega says Wrecking Ball Legursky is a star when solo. And that's the thing too. I wrote about that this morning in the write-up for the show. Wrecking Ball Legursky is kind of, he's been watered down in the NWA. He's not who he used to be in the NWA. When he was in the National Wrestling Alliance, he was one of the, I want to say he was a big deal. Let me rephrase that. Let me start over. I got lost in my words there. Wrecking Ball Legursky as a tag team with Jay Bradley, the Fixers, was fun. And it was very comical, and it was entertaining at times. The problem with that, though, is Wrecking Ball Legursky has been a real serious threat out on the indies. And when you watch Wrecking Ball Legursky almost anywhere else, he's taking more as a legitimate threat and less as a comedic wrestler. And that makes him a lot more fun to watch, I think. So when I look at Wrecking Ball Legursky and I see him in the ring, I look at what he's done in New England Championship Wrestling. I look at to see what he's done in Dog Pro Wrestling. Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, our friends over at Dog. And that's the Wrecking Ball Legursky that I feel like could be very intimidating and a very dominating factor in the NWA. But we don't get that out of him most of the time. But anyways, I digress. Let's see. Noob's in the house. What's up, Noob? Hope you're all doing well. So let's look at, obviously, there's been some new stuff going on recently with the NWA. Of course, the territories have been taking off. We have a lot more action with the territories. There's a lot of events coming up very soon. They've announced more exclusive contracts with the NWA. More talents are coming to join the NWA in Philadelphia for the 76th anniversary show. One thing I do want to point out is if you haven't done so already, check out the new NWA website. The new NWA website is pretty good, man. They have been really working on making that thing a viable, what's the word I'm looking for? Platform to communicate what's going on in the NWA. They have already confirmed more wrestlers for the event. They had already previously mentioned that Hollywood Haley J would be coming from Ohio Valley. They also have confirmed that the following talents will be appearing at the 76th anniversary show. You have the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Blunt Force Trauma, Damage and Carnage with their manager, Aaron Stevens. Kenzie Page will be in attendance. She is your women's world champion. The tag team women champions, the King Bees, Danny B, Charity King will also be there. The Crockett Cup Tournament champions, Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor, Thrillbilly, Silas Mason, the Southern Six will be in Philly. Also, Mike Knox, Trevor Murdoch, former U.S. Tag Champions Odinson and Kratos, Kayla Rossi, Baron Von Storm will be there, Ella Envy will be there, Rekka Tahaka, Taylor Rising, La Rosa Negra, Brian Idol, Natalia Markova. And there's so much, so much has been announced, but there's very few matches that have come up yet. And the only match that I think has been announced, quasi-announced, is Blunt Force Trauma and Knox and Murdoch. Now, they're not saying that is particularly a world title match per se, but both teams are announced for being there. And I can only imagine that means that we're going to see those titles will be on the line. That's what I'm trying to say. Easy for me to say, right? J-Cow, who do you pick for Blood and Guts? Robert, you're going to have to help me out on that one because I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. Willie Bone wants to see Wrecking Ball versus Jack Stane. Like, yeah, man. Yes, absolutely. Jack Stane is a beast, man. And Wrecking Ball Legursky is a monster. That would be a very fun super heavyweight match. That's the kind of stuff that I wish would get booked more. Less comedy. Let's just get some more ass kickers doing, I don't know, ass kicking things. Let's see. More. What else you got for me? But yeah, I'm sorry, Robert. I don't know what Blood and Guts is. I think maybe that might be an AEW thing. Enlighten me if it is. I'm not sure. We do know that did it not come up? We do know that a new challenger has emerged for the 10 pounds of gold. We saw him. We saw him appear at the last Exodus Pro show. And I'm sorry for no volume, but we have Richard Holiday, who won the number one contenders match against EC3. Richard Holiday won the number one contenders match against Ashton Day for a shot at EC3, attacks EC3 post-match celebration, and that match is all set up. That match is taking place. Let's see, when is that coming? That match will be taking place on, August the 24th, just a few weeks ahead of the 76th anniversary show. Richard Holiday and EC3 will be going toe-to-toe at the Treelawn Music Hall in Waterloo, Cleveland, Ohio. This is where Exodus Pro spends a lot of their time anyways, and so we'll get to see that matchup take place. It's called Exodus Pro Journey 2, and again, that's going to lead up to the next big event for Exodus Pro. Of course, they just finished their show, just had their last show, of course, where Richard Holiday got that opportunity to challenge or to win that number one contender shot. Let's see, more room in more comments in the chat. Robert Diggins says Swerve, Briscoe, Acclaimed, and Darby versus the Elite in a War Games match. Okay, so yeah, you're talking about AEW, Robert, and I should take that graphic down. Yeah, I'm not a huge AEW fan. I don't watch a lot of it, but Swerve is pretty awesome. I have enjoyed Swerve every time I've seen him in the ring. Epic Pro Wrestling just reached out on TikTok, and yeah, we will do a talk soon because you got a show coming up. In fact, you're not watching it on YouTube, Andrew, but I showed the commercial that you guys put up on Instagram. I stole it, and I've been playing it ahead of the pre-party here on my YouTube channel. Bobby Battista says Richard Holiday would be a great opponent for EC3. I agree. I think Richard Holiday, I don't want to say he's being wasted in Exodus Pro because, of course, they're trying to build up that wrestling promotion as well. That's all part of the territory system. I think Richard Holiday is such a fantastic talent. I don't know why he hasn't been signed to one of the big 2, 3, 4 promotions that are out there. It seems like to me that he is the exact type of talent that the NWA could sink their teeth into. And I know that they don't want to take the belt off of EC3 anytime soon, but a guy like Richard Holiday could certainly bring credibility into a title defense. And I mean, we just got done with, having Sam Adonis from Lucha Libre AAA challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. And I got to be honest, man, it was a lackluster match. I wasn't really impressed. The NWA did a terrible job of publicizing the match. We didn't really see any on-air promotion for that match. We didn't really get a lot of Adonis camera time prior to the match. And although Sam Adonis, I think, is a good wrestler, I think he really excels working in Lucha Libre and working in Mexico for Lucha Libre AAA. I just felt like it didn't connect with that Forney crowd in Texas. And the more that I saw that crowd in Forney, Texas, I mean, I was there live, and the fans just didn't care about Sam Adonis at all. I don't feel like they connected with Adonis. And at no point did it feel like EC3's world title was in peril. I mean, look, I was in Lake Elsinore around maybe 200 people for wrestling, Valley Wrestling Connection. And Honest John and EC3 had a better match and was more connected to that audience than anything I felt like Adonis presented during his opportunity against EC3. Now, I don't know if you want to blame Adonis or you want to blame EC3 or the NWA or all three of them, but I feel like they should have done a better job of hyping this matchup. And I feel like Adonis really mailed in his performance. And I'm somebody that likes Sam Adonis, El Rudo, if you will. I'm looking forward to seeing him the next time I go to Tijuana for the next Lucha Libre show, which I believe is a Saturday. So, I feel like the fans there got really a short end of the stick. Now, of course, that title match wasn't the crux of Crockett Cup. Crockett Cup was all about the tag team tournament, but even still, man, I feel like the NWA really dropped the bag on that one. I feel like they could have done so much more in hyping that up and making it a more believable event. So when you talk about Richard Holiday, now that's a guy with super charisma. That's a guy who's really, really good in the ring. And if you bring that charisma to the NWA and they really use that marketability, right? He is the most marketable, right? I feel like that's going to help things out. I see Sweet Vanilla's in the chat. I see, and this is on TikTok, I see Axolotl Kids in the chat. What is up? How y'all doing? Do I have the Riz? I don't know. Do I have the Riz? Probably not. That's very interesting point that our pal Dave Scooby pointed out. 76th anniversary will be taking place roughly 30 years after Douglas threw down the title and ECW was born. See, I didn't realize that, Dave Scooby. I didn't put two and two together. You remember it wasn't in that arena, but it was that time about 30 years ago where the franchise Shane Douglas won the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship after the WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling left the National Wrestling Alliance. And that title, that 10 pounds of gold that was bestowed upon Shane Douglas was promptly dropped to the floor and proclaimed dead so that the ECW title could be born. It's funny how many people then predicted the NWA would die at that very moment and ECW would live on, but that did not happen. And it's only fitting that they're returning to Philadelphia with the 10 pounds of gold, that title that was synonymous with Shane Douglas dropping it to the floor. After Douglas threw the title down, it took nearly a year before they held another tournament, which Chris Candido won. And Chris Candido was an excellent champion, excellent choice for champion. In that same tournament, they were even considering using Chris Benoit. And that's a whole other can of worms. What would have happened had Chris Benoit won the 10 pounds of gold? Unfortunately for Candido, the NWA really didn't get much behind him. Even in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where he was a regular, they didn't really push Chris Candido. They didn't give him an opportunity to showcase his work as champion. And so when the time came that they had an opportunity to work with Dan the Beast Severn of the UFC fame, who had just got off winning UFC 5, they were like, yep, let's do it. They dropped the belt to him. And the new NWA world champion, Dan Severn, literally saved the brand. So, that's me going off on my things. Getting more to the comments in the chat. The NWA needs more of a Bruiser, Brody, Stan Hansen type matches, less on the comedy antics. See, Willie, I agree with you, but I feel like the problem is we're talking to the wrong people, right? Because the guy who is responsible for all of this is Billy Corgan. So when we see a matchup and we think, wow, that's a great matchup, like Billy booked it, that's great. But when it sucks, well, Billy booked it, so it's not great. It's the same thing. It's the same chemistry. It's the same dynamic. It sucks, but it is what it is. Let's see, Bobby Petito. What's next for Ella Envy since she lost against Kenzie Page at the NWA? Should she go to Exodus Pro? Well, yeah. So Ella Envy is probably one of the better characters in the NWA right now, and breaking up Pretty Empowered, I feel like was a bold choice. I don't know if that's going to pay out later down the road. The dynamic between Ella, Kenzie, and Kylie was really unique. That whole Mean Girls spirit worked very well for television, worked well for their pay-per-views. Danny Deals would even say that their merchandise was some of the hottest selling merch. I don't know about that, but that's what he would say. So when you break that dynamic up, what are you doing? What's the plan? And the plan, I don't know what their plan is for Ella Envy. I don't know what their plan is for the women's division at all, really, because there's so much flux. You have the women's world champion, Kenzie Page, defends the title tonight. Spoiler alert: it's against. Why did I forget her name all of a sudden? Misa Kate. I should have remembered that one. And that's cool. Misa Kate is a great challenger for the title, but like at the end of the day, we know that she's gone. She's no longer with the National Wrestling Alliance. And you have this bottleneck at the women's television title. They don't have enough tag teams. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, there's a lot of talent coming into the NWA, specifically for the 76th anniversary show. They've announced, Ruthie J, Markova, Ella Envy, La Rosa Negra, Reka Tahaka, Hollywood Haley J, Kayla Rossi. So there's a lot of the King Bees, Danny B, and Charity King. So there's a lot of women that will be at this event. How are they going to get used? I don't know. Maybe it's time to make some new tag teams. I don't know what the plan is, but I imagine if I'm the NWA, the pairing with Samantha Starr and Ella Envy seems to make a lot of sense. And if they decide to convert that in from a manager wrestler to a tag team, that might get some mileage because, again, Ella Envy is very good on the mic. She's a very unique character for the National Wrestling Alliance, and putting her with Samantha Starr could really get some mileage out of Samantha Starr as well. Sam Retro says, we on the road for some Philly cheesesteaks. Philly cheesesteaks. You know what was really good is the pizza in Glassboro, New Jersey. Ask my pal Jaden about that one. It was terrific. Natalia Markova just announced she's going to be at the computer froze. Natalia Markova just announced she's going to be at the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager 6 in the Beach in early 2025. That's a great opportunity for the NWA. Believe it or not, I don't know what the plan is with Markova either. Like I said, the whole women's division just seems so jumbled up at the moment. And, we'll have to wait and see what the next few weeks of television, maybe we make more sense out of all this. From being there firsthand at the Crockett Cup, it felt like there was zero direction. It felt like there was no plan with what you're going to do with Maxine Paler, your television champion. The anniversary show is where Kenzie Page became champion. The anniversary show is where Maxine Paler became TV champion. And it just feels like, what are we doing with this dynamic here? What are you going to do? Because right now everything is kind of locked up with Max being both the men's champion and the women's champion and not defending really either title on a regular basis. Now, look, we could tune in next week and have a Maxine Paler title defense, and then I kind of have to eat my words. But until that happens, it's just kind of like, what are we doing with that belt? You're not allowing the division to grow, and if you're bottlenecking the TV division, the TV title in that segment of the roster, then you make some more tag teams. But I'm not saying anything new here. It's the stuff that we talk about week in and week out. But if Markova is going to be on the Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager, I mean, this would be a great time to put a title on her and kind of expose a different crowd to the NWA. Jericho is an AEW wrestler, but those events seem to be kind of almost like a all-inclusive type show where you see wrestlers from different promotions appearing on those Jericho events. So, and why don't they put those shows on DVD or something? DVD on pay-per-view or something? It never made sense to me. Why would you create these events and not showcase them? It just didn't make a lot of sense. Sam Retro says, I blame Adonis. I mean, they could have done something more with Adonis. I just don't feel like they did it then. I don't feel like they... If Adonis was the choice all along, then they should have built him up. They should have had him film something even on a phone. I mean, God, anything. My phone right here, this phone right here records in high def. I can get 4K quality out of this phone. So why are we recording? Why aren't we doing more promos and adding them into these packages? You know, he could have recorded a promo on his phone, sent it in. You know, they could have worked it into some of the episodes of Power. They didn't do anything. And it was such like a, you know, he was advertised, but he wasn't advertised, if that makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, I think Retro, I think you're probably talking about the whole ECW title. And that was Dave Scooby pointing that out. I didn't even think about it. Let's see. Robert says at 6 p.m. there will be a Blood and Guts preview show on the AEW YouTube channel. That's cool. Retro just looked it up. He says, I think it was August 27th, 94. I mean, wow. How much closer can you get? And who knows? I mean, you're in Philly. What if Shane Douglas shows up, you know? Not that I'm like encouraging a recreation. We've already had Shane Douglas apologize on camera for the incident. You know, he's said in the past that he regretted doing it. I don't know. Look, it was a good move at the time for the ECW. It did hurt the NWA, but obviously the NWA rebounded. We went through the wilderness years of the NWA as they tried to find footing after the ECW incident. And then we saw that get built up into the TNA era, and then the post-TNA era, which I affectionately call the Dave Marquez era. And then from that era, it became the what's his name? Bruce Tharp era. And then the Bruce Tharp era led to the Billy Corgan era. So, I mean, obviously, the NWA is still around. That title's still being defended. We've still had great champions throughout the years. But it took time for the NWA to kind of get back to where it even is now. Rosville's in the house. What's going on, Rosville? Steve G says, Robert. Oh, you're talking about the AEW. Willie said he saw Genocide in Generational Championship Wrestling. Cool. The NWA needs a promotion in the territory that is tag team only. That's interesting. I mean, look, there's a lot of solid tag teams out there. I think for the NWA, and I'm speaking specifically about the women's division when it comes to tag team wrestling, I think the biggest problem is that you have only one real set of tag teams. Like, they broke up Ella Envy and Kylie Page. That was your other real tag team. When Maddie Rankowski got signed to the WWE, they didn't know what to do with Misa Kate. You briefly teased the idea of putting Natalia Markova with Taylor Rising. That would have made sense. They could have kept that going. You have Ruthie J and La Rosa Negra as kind of a makeshift tag team. You've got Tiffany Nieves and Reka Tahaka as a makeshift tag team, but none of them are really good as a tag team. And I'm not trying to fault anyone, but like, they don't get enough reps in as a tag team. Where the King Bees, you know, they're not only just working the NWA, they're also working Mission Pro and some of the other independents in Texas. So you get a more complete tag team that way. You know, they brought in the Renegade Twins. The Renegade Twins left after winning the titles and dropping the titles. So it's like, start building some more tag teams. If you want to use Samantha Starr and Ella Envy as your template, there's one team. You know, you want to keep Ruthie J and La Rosa Negra together, there's your second team. Then who's else? Like, I don't really think Reka Tahaka and Tiffany Nieves make sense as a tag team. I feel like Tiffany Nieves needs to get pushed towards the world title. So again, that's all for nothing. But yeah, having a pipeline of women's tag team to the NWA would make sense. And again, that's why working with Mission Pro would absolve a lot of these problems, would make these a lot better. Let's see. Jadine's warning everyone not to eat hot Assad chicken before the show. Yeah, I no thanks. What does the winner? Oh, you guys are just talking about AEW. Markova for the NWA Women's World Championship. I mean, that'd be all right. Well, I would take a DVD of these shows. You know, like going back to the Jericho Cruise. I almost went to the first one, and my wife would tell you that that year we bought our house. We bought our house, and money was already super tight, and we were going to go to we bought our house, and I was going to go to China, and I was going to go to All In Chicago, and I was going to go to the Jericho Cruise. And then we bought our house. We committed to buying our house, and my loving, supportive wife was like, look, you could pick one of the three, but I don't think you could do all three and still have money to buy this house. And she was right. And so I went to China, and I could have gone to the Jericho Cruise. In fact, I even tweeted something at Jericho. I said, my wife said, if you retweet this, that I could go to your cruise. And of course he did. And I didn't go, but I think that Jericho Cruise is a smart business idea. I think that's a fun idea. And I'm not a huge Jericho fan like I used to be, but I still think that would be an amazing opportunity, especially if the NWA could get on board. I mean, I know Billy Corgan doesn't exactly love people, but imagine if Billy Corgan partnered with Jericho and did this whole NWA Cruise thing, right? Like EC3 versus Jericho for the World's Heavyweight Championship, Smashing Pumpkins playing one night, Billy Corgan playing one night, Jericho playing one night, having the hybrid of NWA talent, the Southern Six. Can you imagine Silas Mason on a cruise ship? It'd be amazing. But yeah, sorry, I'm running off base there. And DKM just brings up the fact that Adonis didn't. It's up to the NWA to get stuff from Adonis. The NWA did little to promote it. 100%. With 100% certainty, I feel like having the NWA running an event where your main opponent for the world title isn't being publicized, I think that's pretty suspect, if you ask me. I think it's a bad look. Anyways, I just got done watching Shane in the Tharp era NWA. When you say Shane, which Shane are you talking about, Rosville? Let's see. Would anyone go to a show that was only tag matches all the time? Probably not. I don't think so. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get caught up on your comments. I'm looking forward to seeing who could be wrestling at the 76. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names, but no matches have been announced yet, and I think they're going to take their time in announcing those matches. Kenzie Page is more of a transitional champion than a women's champion. Kenzie Page has been champion for over almost a year now, Noob. That's not a transitional champion. The NWA bought into Kenzie. If NWA does another Burke Invitational Gauntlet at 76, who should be in it? That's interesting. Now that's a good one. Bobby, you got to let me think about that one. That's a great answer because there's West Coast Pro Wrestling out in San Francisco is hosting a Queen of the Indies event, and they're bringing a lot of the top female talent that are unsigned at the moment. And that would be a great, looking at what they do would be a great indication of who would be available for that kind of a tournament. Thank God Tyrus isn't on the cruise ship. Yeah. No, you don't want him on the cruise ship. So let's look at some of the matches that we're going to have tonight, of course, on this episode of Power. Tonight, we're going to see matches featuring some of your favorites from the NWA. Of course, the national championship will be on the line when Thom Latimer defends against Kerry Morton. Now, Kerry Morton's coming off kind of a high right now. Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor, we just saw them win the titles but the tournament in Forney, Texas, where they became the Crockett Cup Tournament champions of 2024. And we know that victory parlayed But the momentum of that victory helped propel Alex Taylor to winning the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. And now that he is the World Junior Heavyweight Championship, you have to imagine that, what Ricky Morton said when they won the titles is that they were continuing to look for more gold. I mean, I think I've got the video clip still here. And if I'll just play it again real quick.
It's happened. You have won the 2024 Crockett Cup Tag Team Tournament. Gentlemen, congratulations. I guess we're stuck with the Southern Six permanently.
Now, David, I'm not surprised. All these losers in the tag team belong to six. Those losers in the tag team belong to six. Six is a high-flying tag team man. Hey, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Hey, welcome to our world, bitches. You're now in Southern Six country. Yeah, you got that right. And only remember this. This is just the beginning. We got a lot of gold to conquer before we leave here. Thank you.
Your Crockett Cup winners, the Southern Six.
A lot more gold to go after. So I don't know, man. Maybe Thom Latimer might be in peril tonight. I mean, of course, this match was filmed before the Crockett Cup. And so we kind of know that, unless the NWA did some weird Disney Studios, WCW stuff, that Thom Latimer will retain this title tonight. But it could be setting something up for the 76th anniversary show, and maybe a Southern Six versus Thom Latimer type situation might spill over to the 76th anniversary show. Not really sure how they, that's the problem with filming these things out of order. The show itself gets really weird. So we'll see. Bobby Petito says if you're going to do a Burke Invitational, he'd put Ella Envy, Taylor Rising, Tiffany Nieves, La Rosa Negra, Ruthie J, and Kylie Page too. Yeah, I mean, that's probably what they would do. I think, that would make a lot of sense. Anyways, other matches scheduled for this evening. We have, of course, Kenzie Page is set to defend the Women's World Championship. Now, spoiler alert, I haven't watched this week's episode of Power, but this was on Twitter. We know that she's going to be taking on Misa Kate, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Now, Misa Kate has already left the company, so we kind of spoiled that one too. We already know that, Kenzie Page will still be champion at the end of the night. And of course, these were all filmed, back in, I think, February or maybe it was March. So a lot of these matches, the results would have come out, I think, if the titles had changed hands. So I don't expect any major title changes tonight. And of course, you've got a non-title match up between the Heavenly Butterflies and Blunt Force Trauma. I'm not a huge Heavenly Butterflies guys, but if I can see Carnage and Damage kind of beat the crap out of some people, I'm all about that. And of course, in the main event, you have EC3 defending against Wrecking Ball Legursky. Now, when this match was taped back in March or wherever, it was kind of connected to a radio DJ contest thing. I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know this. I know that EC3 has now defended the title close to 46 times. 6 of those have appeared on Power. He's defeated the likes of Matt Cardona. He's defeated the likes of Jay Bradley. He's defeated Jack Stain. He defeated Sam Adonis. I know I'm missing a few, but ultimately, I guess what I'm pointing out here is that as a world's heavyweight champion, I don't know that EC3 has let anyone down as champion. And of course, he's defended the title all across the spectrum. Having title defenses in his home promotion of Exodus Pro, having matches all over the United States, California, Florida, for promotions associated with the NWA, promotions not associated with the NWA, defending it in All Japan, defending it in Australia, defending it in the UK, Canada. I don't know what more EC3 could have done as world champion. It's not up to him to book his opponents. It's up to him to continue to shine. And I feel like that's what he's done. I would love for the NWA again to bring in somebody with some, and this isn't a shot at Wrecking Ball Legursky, but somebody who is a main event name out on the independent scene. I recently was in San Francisco. I got to see Shelton Benjamin take on Titus Alexander for West Coast Pro Wrestling. Shelton Benjamin still got it. If the NWA wanted to do something different, if they wanted to be bold, they would find somebody maybe like Shelton Benjamin and bring him in. But don't just bring him in for the anniversary show. Build this up. Build up an opponent for EC3, a rival. And again, we talk about this each and every week. Wrecking Ball Legursky is a fine talent. On the indies, he's very dominant. On the indies, he's brassed, he's tough, he's intimidating. The NWA has used him as a comedy stick for the better part of 3 years now. So when you introduce him as a viable challenger for the 10 pounds of gold, a lot of people are going to laugh at that. A lot of people are going to think he's outclassed already before the match even starts. That's not fair to Wrecking Ball Legursky. That's just the way he's booked. But he's a very credible athlete. The guy, for that size, moves around the ring so effortlessly that he should be a very intimidating challenger for the likes of EC3. But we know that, again, EC3, this match was recorded back in March. Tape schedule on these matches sucks. Who's excited about it? I mean, it's going to be a good match. I have all the faith in the world that EC3 and Wrecking Ball Legursky, as long as nobody mailed it in, it's going to be a fun match. I just don't feel like this was the best way to do it. Paladin's in the house. Paladin's here. What's up, Paladin? My Paladin. Nothing like 4-month-old matches. Yeah, I mean, it does feel that way, right? It does, because these matches were all happened back in the past, and yeah, so it's a little bit wonky, but it is what it is, and we'll have to just see what's going to happen next for the NWA. We have to see what's next for that's weird. That's weird. Sorry, got some weird message. As I'm starting to lose my voice here. The Hurt Business is free. I don't have a problem with the Hurt Business working with the NWA. I just don't feel like Bobby Lashley, I still feel like is ready to go. I feel like he's got a lot left in the tank too. I don't know how the WWE failed that guy so much. When he was in TNA, he was a beast. When he was TNA, he was over. And I don't see him working in AEW. I don't think it makes sense. The AEW roster doesn't have heavyweights like Bobby Lashley. There's nobody on the roster currently like Bobby Lashley. So if you were to bring in Bobby Lashley to AEW, what could he do? What program could you put him in? He's better served in a place like like TNA wrestling. But if you brought him into the NWA, you'd be doing a radical move. And Paladin, he says he's 50 years old. Yeah, he's 50 years old, but like, are you telling me he can't sell tickets to a show? Are you telling me he can't wrestle a good match? I mean, I look back at some of the wrestlers when I was a kid, like, you know, in their late 40s, early 50s. You know, Brian Cage. Okay, that's a good point. That's fair. Brian Cage, I guess we're going to go that route. Brian Cage, Wardlow, Lance Archer, I guess would all make decent opponents for him. But what are you doing, though? What are you building them up for? Steve G was there with me. Oh, okay. You know, you guys are pulling out some good names here. Hobbs, Cobb, Brian Cage. Okay. All right, man. I mean, you know, I'll admit those are some good names. But what's the end game? Like, what do you do with him? He's not going to be built for a world's heavyweight title, is he? He's not going to be AEW world champion, is he? But could he be NWA world champion? Could he be the guy to take the belt off of EC3? I don't know, man. I think that would be pretty interesting. The guy's built like a shit brick house. Who's gonna put the boots to that guy? That's not an easy day at the office for somebody like EC3. That's a match. That's, you look at EC3 and that dude's built very strong and looks great, but he'd be dwarfed by Bobby Lashley. Lashley to MLW. I mean, that'd be great too. I feel like there's a lot of things you could do with Bobby Lashley. I don't think AEW is the right answer. Paladin says that Ricky Starks is WWE bound. That only makes sense. That's where he's always wanted to be anyways. So as we look at tonight's Roswell says Bobby slamming EC3 all over the place. Yeah, I mean, look, at the very least, right? Full disclosure, when I saw Jay Bradley challenge EC3, I was not in fear of EC3 losing the title. When I saw Jax Dane versus EC3, I thought, hey, maybe, because Jax Dane is still a G, man. Don't sleep on Jax Dane. But they didn't pull the trigger. And then when you saw EC3 versus, Thom Latimer, I didn't feel like they were going to put the belt on Latimer then. And then just ever since then, it feels like there has been not a lot of momentum to get the belt off of EC3 or to put an opponent that would make you concerned about that, right? But if you put EC3 in the ring with Bobby Lashley, wouldn't you be a little nervous if you're if you're an EC3 fan, aren't you a little bit nervous? EC3 is a former TNA heavyweight champion, but so is Lashley. And although EC3 has held titles and gold in the WWE, Lashley held the world's heavyweight championship. Putting Lashley in the ring with EC3, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that I would be concerned if I was an EC3 fan. I'd be a little bit worried that maybe the Overman couldn't live up to the mighty Bobby Lashley. That's just me talking. I don't have any vote in this. I don't have a say in this. I just feel like that's a potential that could happen. Paladin says TNA is making strides right now. Lashley would help. Yeah, I mean Lashley, but see, then I feel like when you have Moose and Lashley, you got two big behemoths of a guy. It's almost like you have two of the same thing. Now, Hammerstone versus Lashley, Nick Nemeth versus Lashley, obviously with the world title. There's a lot of talent that would make sense, would have a lot of good matches with Lashley, but I don't think anything would be more interesting than EC3 versus Lashley. Steve G says, I'd like to see Lashley do the New Japan G1 tournament. I mean, that would be awesome. That would be great. And I think that's a place where he could really be dominant in a New Japan ring, because I don't think they have anything like Lashley over there. And the last time they had someone like Lashley, it was Brock Lesnar. So, yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting. Bobby Batista says it's nice that Misa Kate is getting an opportunity to wrestle for the Women's World Championship. Yeah, it's her way of saying bye, I guess. Let's see. AJ Kazana versus Bobby Lashley. People forget how big Kazana is because he's in a tag team right now, but Kazana's a big boy. What if you did this? What if you brought in Bobby Lashley and had him managed by how am I forgetting it? G's. Have him managed by G's. Oh, damn. Hey, Billy Corgan, I got an idea for you. Feel free to steal this. And in the meantime, you could maybe even put Lashley as a tag team partner with Big Strong Mims. I don't know. It's just talk. I don't know. But we do know that there are more NWA events coming, of course. The War Game match will be happening for Joe Kazana Promotions. That matchup is coming on August 2nd back in Cofield. More matches will be announced soon, I'm sure of it. Then also we have although it's not directly the NWA, Mission Pro will be holding their Midsummer Blast with the big title match of Izzy Marino defending against the NWA talent La Rosa Negra. We know that EC3's next big title defense will be against Richard Holiday, and that will be at Journey 2 on August the 24th. All that leads us to the 76th anniversary show in Philadelphia. And then even after that, there's plans for the Black Harvest, which is the Crossfire Wrestling show. And then we have Samhain 2. Somewhere in between all of that, there's supposed to be a show in New York. I don't know much about it. And then the Looks at Kill will be taking place on December 14th, 2 weeks before Christmas at the Dothan Civic Center in Dothan, Alabama. Get your tickets now. I don't know. Have they sold out yet? I know the last time they were in Dothan, they went pretty quick out there. So all of that to say, what's next for the NWA? What is next for the NWA? Church's Money Entertainment. There it is. It's Sam Hain. If you want to pronounce it like a noob, no offense, noob. That wasn't a shot at you. That just happened to work out that way. Church's Money Entertainment. Yeah, so a lot of cool things I think are happening in the NWA right now. I'm curious to see what's going to happen on these sets of tapings. Again, I feel like these matches are kind of insignificant, though, because the greater story was already told at Crockett Cup. And then they already recorded matches for the indies, the territories. So that event was already taped. I think it was before shortly after the Crockett Cup. Those matches will probably lead us to the 76th anniversary show. And then, of course, that will be a signature live event for the CW that they'll probably air those matches, obviously, a couple weeks after the anniversary show. So I don't know the order of these things. These are just assumptions, but it looks like, things are kind of percolating for the NWA. And, I think it should be noted that with inking a lot of these contracted talents, again, the NWA has had talents under contract before, but now that they're exclusively promoting these as, exclusive deals, and you're seeing like talents now whose names are appearing on these posters with the NWA emblem next to them. I really feel like that's building towards something bigger. And what that is, I don't know yet. Billy Corgan has said that there's another show that's supposed to happen sometime soon. All of this stuff is going to have to wait, I guess, to phase in. But I'm excited, and I hope that you guys are too. Now, our pal Steve G earlier in the show asked if there's any UWN news, and no, unfortunately, there isn't any UWN news at the moment. Our pal Dave Marquez, friend of the show, he is working on something that I'm not at liberty to talk about. I don't have a lot of the details either, but he's mentioning a strong presence in the Texas wrestling market. If you live in Texas, that might be good news for you. We know that United Wrestling Network has done work with Reality Wrestling in the past. We see Danny Limelight as one of the featured players in the Reality Wrestling, also United Wrestling Network World Champion. Memphis is still happening on a weekly basis. That program has not taken a hiatus break or anything like that. Derby City, Championship Wrestling, both of them seem to have gone on hiatus. I don't know for how much longer. I was really hoping that we would see the show that they taped with West Coast Pro Wrestling back in June make its way onto the television for Championship Wrestling. A lot of great matches there that I don't know will ever see the light of day. I know it was filmed, so maybe those will be the precursor to what Championship Wrestling becomes once it goes back into production. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But that's going to do it for us this week, guys. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you making us part of your weekly viewing habits. Of course, later tonight, if you are looking for something to do, I will be doing an interview with Honest John, the man who challenged EC3 for the World Heavyweight Championship out here in Southern California. Also a regular for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. We'll talk to him about all things Southern California wrestling, as well as his opportunity against DC3, what he really thinks of the world's heavyweight champion, the United Wrestling Network, and more. And then on Thursday, what we're going to be doing is a little bit different, a little programming change. DK and Jaden and I will all be on, which that's not the change, but we'll be talking a little bit about grading some of the NWA heavyweight wrestlers, the heavyweight talent of the NWA. We'll be grading them and giving them scores. I don't know if this is it might be a little controversial, so make sure you come in and check it out. But thanks again, guys, for being here. I do appreciate you, and we will see you on later tonight if you'll be here. So see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA POWERRR every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time,